Detective Comics 1058. This is Muka Tamaki writing a Manke and Hulpin on the art, and it is the final part of the tower. The 12-issue saga comes to a close, as does the backup as well. We'll get to that in a bit, of course. So this final issue jumps ahead and sort of gives us a lot of epilogue style stuff, where Deb is kind of like summing things up for a news article and whatnot. Yeah.
Did anyone else feel like we didn't really get a proper ending? We kind of cut straight to the epilogue. I felt like I was missing an issue.
100%. My biggest problem with this and why I feel let down is you in the last issue with Nakano's wife putting on the Medusa mask, and then it's never addressed again.
Like, I'm sure we'll get to that at some point, but it feels like we spent a lot of time building up with this story, and there was no actual climax. It's just straight to the epilogue, and I feel like I missed, because this stuff on its own is fine, but in context, I'm like,
there's nothing.
Where's the ending?
There's nothing bad about what anything that's in this issue. I think everything in this issue is perfectly good.
If this was the next issue, I think I'd be, if we had like an actual conclusion issue and then this.
The weird thing is I don't even think we need a full issue. I think because the way the last issue, which was Nakano's wife putting on the mask, all you really needed was one more page of showing all of the villains like falling asleep, and then you could literally jump ahead from there, because that would show you how it ended. That would show you,
or her just yelling stop.
And
everybody stopping, and then
one little thing to show you the effect of that before we jumped ahead, I think would have been fine. So that's the one thing, because I agree that it does feel like something's missing. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a whole issue. I would just say it's
not a whole issue. It's very abrupt.
Yeah.
I think even that, like, I think it needs more than just, because while that does deal with that immediate threat in that moment, I think it still probably needs like half an issue of like actual conclusion before we get to this epilogue stuff and dealing with where's what's going on with Psycho Pirate afterwards.
I think now knowing that Tamaki is co-writing the book still for the foreseeable future, I do expect that maybe some of these loose ends will probably get brought up here or there as other stories are playing out.
I would assume so, yeah.
Because this issue does set up Chase still working at the tower.
And I think that is kind of part of my problem with this issue and retroactively the tower as a whole, and that it's a whole lot of build, it's a whole lot of setting up, it's a whole lot of teasing stuff to come, and there's not a payoff at the end of this. I don't feel like I got a satisfying story in this 12 issues by the end.
I disagree there, because while I feel like the whole Psycho Pirate story wasn't ended properly, I do like the idea that because Dr. Ware was a con man, and that the whole idea of Arkham Tower can work in the right hands, but because you have this con man come in and did the whole Music Man thing, trying to get the money. And then
even I don't understand how Arkham Tower is like, we're just gonna keep it, it's fine, it works. But how does it work? It's exactly like, what's the defense of Arkham Tower versus anything else now? Given that there is no person really, there's no miracle cure, there is no.
Well, no, it's just an actual hospital like Arkham, but with like a proper person appointed to run it.
Right, because it always feels like Arkham itself is a cursed land. Like we got that in that what was the Arkham City book?
Yeah. So basically, this is just it's Arkham Asylum again, just with a new name.
Well, no, it's but instead of treating it like an asylum, they're treating it like an actual mental hospital, which I think goes a long way.
I think the fact that you see a normal person, for lack of a better term, in Nakano's wife going there for therapy kind of shows that it isn't just a mental hospital now. It's something where anyone can go and get treatment.
I just feel like it was very like lack of justification of just this whole thing was a scam, but well, whatever, we'll keep it going anyway. It seems so weird to me,
because there's a few things.
I mean, what's the alternate though? They tear it all down and send everybody back to the husk of Arkham Asylum.
Turn it into a fancy apartment building and
they gentrify it.
I assume they would have sent them all back to their Blackgate cells like they were doing before, which is where they moved them all out of, right?
I think so, yeah. I mean, there's some interesting stuff set up in this though, because Psycho Pirate's leaving, and the people are hunting him, and the Bat family kind of take care of Penguin's goons. But Batman does catch up to Psycho Pirate and basically offers him an option. We don't get to hear what it is though, so obviously this is setting up some stuff for.
I suspect for Williamson's stuff more than anything with the
very
Dark
possibly.
Crisis.
Yeah, very possibly. But I thought that was kind of a neat little tease. It sets up there's going to be a Riddler story next. I don't think it's that's on an accident that's happening right as the movies just came out. It makes a lot of sense. So, and I'm down for a Riddler story.
But I do like how it ended too, because it did feel like, hey, this is the season finale, and this is the tease for next season.
Yeah, I like that kind of feel to it as well. And it went around all the characters. We had a Steph and Cass scene. We had Huntress with Harley at one point. We kind of hit on a lot of the characters.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the little details that I really like that they've set up is this new base they've got in the underground city. I actually really like this new cave they're using now.
Yeah.
Like obviously Batman still has actually he doesn't have his Batcave because he's in the city in his apartment now. But
yeah, this is just the Batcave now.
But I like the idea that this is the team's cave rather than Batman's cave specifically. It's a cool setting. I don't know. I like it.
I like that it's underground. It's not the clock tower, right? But it's the same vibe.
Reminiscent to me of the new base that the Turtles get in the second Turtles movie, where they get the old subway station.
The subway station. Yeah.
A little bit like that.
Damn it! Now you made me want to watch Secret of the Ooze. I haven't watched it in a while.
John, visually it reminds me of, like the in the Arkham Asylum game, the cave he has set up on there. Because in that game, he has his thing is he has caves kind of set up all around just in case he needs one. So he has one on under Arkham Asylum, and visually, kind of it reminds me a lot of that one.
Yeah. I think I like everything that this issue kind of does and sets up, and it does kind of feel like, because it is still Tamaki co-writing, that Deb's still going to be a supporting character, that all these characters that we've used are still going to be relevant. Might not see them all immediately, but the fact that Kate's got this relationship with Deb now, where they're giving each other information, and she's like, yeah, thanks, Fro. Those kind of little moments. It's sort of establishing these connections that I think are still going to be a part of this book, which is really nice because, it is a shame when a run ends and a lot of that support system that's set up throughout a writer's run just disappears. So I think her still being there as a co-writer, whether or not she is scripting still or co-developing the story and the other writers scripting going forward, either way, the fact that she's still there probably means that a lot of this,
the threads,
these things and these characters and ideas and the world building that's been done is still going to be maintained for the next while, which is good. I dig that. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as the tower as a whole goes, I do see what Connor's saying, and I do think there is something maybe a little missing between this issue and last issue. I would say that overall, though, I still had a really good time reading it, and I think it'll be when you're reading Tamaki's run, I think it's going to be a really fun, quick read to go. As far as 12 issues of a comic go, I think it's a quick one to fly through and really easy to digest for any faults it may have.
Yeah, there's a lot more. I would say out of the 12 issues, 10 of them I would say are very good to really good. So yeah, that's a pretty good batting average.
Yeah.
I think I'm a little bit more mixed than you guys overall, even before this issue.
Yeah.
I had a few pacing problems as it went on. Again, I don't think those matter as much in the long run when you're just sitting and reading it in one big chunk. But in terms of as single issues, it definitely had those issues, those problems as it went. And then kind of all the Scarecrow stuff and just Batman just showing up and kind of taking over the last couple of issues as well, for me, wasn't amazing.
Yeah, Scarecrow was an odd inclusion ultimately, but I did appreciate him wanting the Psycho Pirate mask, and I like that they're keeping, the Bat family are keeping it secret, what the cure was. They all know it was Psycho Pirate, but they are not revealing that to the public. Deb's not getting that information.
No, because that's the one thing that they don't need in Gotham, is that there was a mind control going on.
Yeah. So, no, it's good stuff. So, it ends with a big page where it teases the Riddler stuff. Riddler's broadcasting out into the, and again, that's very classic Riddler, especially if you played the games, which is, just Riddler talking to you through an earpiece for so much of it.
Glad that he's good old Eddie's back on his bullshit.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So, be curious to see what they do. It's going to be weird not having Detective every week again for a while,
Yeah. I do like how it's
empty.
been constant, because this was the first thing I would read on a Tuesday.
Yeah, me too. I was reading this first for the last 12 weeks. Yeah, it was just this constant thing that I'd start with.
I don't think I did for the first few weeks, but after that, I did as well. I was like, well, it's there. I might as well just get it. You know,
Yeah.
not in a bad way, but just more. Well, it's
No.
always there, so it just became the habit
And
to read.
it's well, it's probably because when I started reading comics, 52 was the weekly project, and I really like to associate DC with weekly books, and it just feels nice to have that thing that's always there. And so when you boot up the app and Detective sitting there to download, it was a good feeling.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a reason why you don't necessarily do this all the time because it would cost a fortune for a lot of books to be weekly and all that. But like, I'm not opposed if, like, let's say Tamaki goes another year in this book with a co-writer. Like, if they decide to end or run with another thing like this, where there's like a weekly couple of months or 3 months again in this case, then as a finale, like, I'd be cool with that. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think they can get away with it on Batbox. They showed that with the two Batman Eternal things sold reasonably well, I think, by all accounts.
Yeah.
So I think as long as Batman's in the name, it sells well enough that they can stick it weekly, and it'll be fine.
And with Detective especially, and action as well to an extent, obviously for the same reason. But with Detective, the fact that people want to have, if they've been collecting for a long time and they've got their run of numbers, they're going to want them all. They don't want to miss out on like a chunk of their numbering. So, yeah. The backup story, of course, also concludes with this issue, this 12-part backup story. And I thought the ending of this was very poignant and kind of perfect for what it was.
Yes.
And I really appreciated that the fact that they didn't have a name this whole time wasn't because it was going to be a reveal of who this really is. The point was going to be no one ever knew your name. You were not important.
Yeah.
I think in the last couple of issues where we'd kind of cut ahead pretty significantly, I think it became clear, at least for me, that it wasn't going to be someone from the tower like we were speculating earlier on.
Right.
I think
like, okay, this is only going to end one way.
Yeah, because it was a kid to start with, and he was a kid for the first like 2/3 of all those stories.
Right.
It kind of felt like he could turn out to be anyone almost. But yeah, once we sort of jumped ahead, and now he's an adult, and we're sort of deep into the. I mean, we're kind of in present day time more or less now, but basically he has this standoff with Batman, and Batman, he's got Joker there tied up. The Joker we saw in the last issue was Clayface. I don't know if we speculated that. I feel like we probably did we flip? No,
because we thought it was the kid dressed up.
We thought it was him just dressed up as Joker.
We didn't factor in Clayface for
It's pretty much the same idea, though, isn't it?
It's the same end result, but but yeah, so he wants to kill the Joker, and have Batman watch before for all
understandable
because Batman's to blame for letting him run rampant all these years and all the rest of it. But Batman makes his speech, like the speech you expect him to make about becoming like just like him and doing better, and I failed you, all those kind of things. I will admit, I did think his dialogue for Joker here was really funny because like the way like you just have him off panel say, oh, he makes a good point. Like when he says, "Oh, Joker killed my family," like he makes a good point. Oh, I don't remember doing that, but it sounds like me, so who might argue?
It's Joker after being beaten and a little bit tortured, so he's a little bit delirious as well, and he still kind of comes out with this.
Yeah,
but because you get the vibe that that's exactly who Joker is, and it's not the non sequitur stuff. He's actually part of the conversation. Like I could read this in the Mark Hamill voice.
I think Blanco draws a really. Like a scary Joker as well. Like that's just like obviously some are a bit more clownish, but he's tied to Chase, essentially, powerless. He can't do anything. He still just looks sinister in a way that sometimes the Joker doesn't, and that's quite impressive. Like there's the panel where he's like, oh, you killed my parents. Do you remember that? And he's like, yeah, I don't remember, but it sounds like something I do. So I'll take word for it. But he's just there in the background, and he's got this grin, and he looks
out.
Yeah, I laughed at that. I laughed at he's got a good point, doesn't he, Batman? And I also laughed at when when the kid's about to kill Joker with the axe, and Batman says, if you use that on someone, use it on me. And Joker just goes, he really knows how to steal the spotlight, doesn't he? It's both very in character, but also just funny in the moment as well. So it's good stuff. And it's this really sad ending where the kid kind of agrees to go along with what Batman's saying, but then the Penguin finds him in the sewers, and it ends with his death. And Penguin says, "No, like." You weren't forgotten. You call yourself the Forgotten, but no one ever knew who you were. No one ever knew your name because you're not important. and he kills him. And the final panel of the book is the dead body of this character that we've been following this whole time, lying there in the sewers. And it is a really dark, bitter ending. That is like, this is not a good story for this character. This is not a heroic tale or anything like that.
It seems triumphant with him getting like Croc and Clayface and Scarecrow, right? Part of the plan. But, the other villain that was main part of his origin was Penguin. And Penguin doesn't forget. So, the fact like Penguin's held on to this and he knows who he is, but he's going to make it that no one else does. I thought that was super poignant.
The tragedy of it, where he's just kind of come to terms with Batman after 20 odd years, whatever it's been, and Batman's like, do you know what? Fine, you go do your thing, make a difference, and then that's it. And now, there's will Batman forget him now? Well, he was like, I wonder whatever happened to that guy.
Yeah.
It makes a really poignant message by the end, and I think the idea this is just a parable of someone who went through something awful in Gotham and then by the end is just consumed by it. Even with the signs of hope and the right choices made towards the end of the story, it didn't matter. Like something he did early on with the Penguin came back to bite him right at the end. And I say right at the end, he's still young. He's still a young man here. He's like 20 or something. Like I don't know what age he's supposed to be, but he's not an old man.
Right.
So it's a really good study of like what the regular people in Gotham might go through, and just the turmoil they go through because of these costumed people running around.
I think it's the concept of the whole one bad day for the can turn you into the Joker. This is that, but sad. Where it's like one bad day doesn't make you into a villain necessarily.
Well, no, and
it kind of makes you into just what you could be in Gotham with one bad day. Is this instead of being crazy and evil? It just makes you sad like this.
Right. Because he fell through all the cracks and everything. Like it's not like people were actively trying to mess up his life, but it was just this circumstances.
Yeah, and it all started with the Joker attack as well. So I mean, you could even look at this is the obviously we have the obvious victims of the Joker who he kills when he's doing these crazy stuff, but then you have this, which is someone who survived the Joker attack. And this is what their life has been, and it amounts to not a whole lot, sadly. So, yeah. The ending was perfect, honestly. It kind of elevated, I think, a lot of the story for me with this final beat.
It's amazing me how like at the start of this 12-issue series of the Tower, I was like, I'm really into the Tower. Oh, hey, this backup's kind of cool too. And by the end, I'm like, no, this is probably what I'll remember more than the Tower overall.
I really like this. Like, I hope they collect this and like
I'm sure they will, because lengthwise, it's kind of like a 6-issue trade, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's the old. Yeah, because they're all about 10 pages each. So yeah.
I would say so far, because we have the complete story. This is, I think, Rosenberg's strongest work at DC.
At DC, sure, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I'm just talking story-wise, like how this kept its narrative throughout, right? By keeping on this kid, and we almost got like a history of Gotham throughout, up until these last two, which kind of show what happens to the people. I
always like when a writer can do something creative to explore parts of the DC universe that we already know from more straight, Batman, Superman stories, whatever. Like, taking a character like this and building a story around them to sort of explore Gotham, explore some of the characters in Gotham, is really fascinating to me. And I also appreciate that sometimes it can kind of feel like when you have a story like this where we're going to go through all these things that touch upon the history of the continuity of Gotham, sometimes it can feel a bit cheap, like a cheap way of like having the artist be able to draw like seminal moments from Gotham's past. Like this could have very easily turned into, we'll show the famous page of Nightfall where Bane breaks his back, and we'll show the famous page from this just so the artist gets to.
A lot of restraint in that. We hit a lot of big moments in Batman history.
But this is from the average person's perspective.
Yeah, well, that's what made it exciting. It kept that perspective, which I think is important. This is not the people in the war room making the decisions. This is just one person going about the city and what they're seeing from their point of view. And that's exciting. But also the fact that it wasn't just cutting to those big pages meant that we had fun like realizing what part of the timeline we were in every time it jumped like that.
I think almost all of it works if you weren't familiar with Batman history anyway. I think the only one that might be a little bit more awkward is the Azrael stuff. Where if like hypothetically, if this was one of you're giving this to someone as one of their first handful of Batman stories, when this is a trade, I think most of it functions perfectly fine. Like they'll pick up that we're jumping through time, but they won't necessarily click onto the events. The Azrael stuff might be the only bit where they're like, wait, what's going on here? Why is Batman so different? But other than that, I think it does a great job of just not needing that context, but having it elevates it.
For sure. All right, that's great. Detective Comics then. Matt, what are you giving the main story?
7.5.
Connor?
The main story gave me blue balls, so it's a 6.
I'm happy to give it the 8. I'm not going to... Admittedly, what should be a critique for having that little bit feeling like there's something missing? I suppose you would critique this one for that, but nothing in the issue itself upset me. It was just, I felt like something was missing between issues. All right, cool. And then back up, Matt?
8.5.
Connor?
9.
Yeah. I'll probably go 8.5. I'll be more restrained on it, but yeah, it was really good. It's probably my favorite chapter of the whole backup series was this last one.
I still really enjoy the Bane one.
Of course
when he puts him up against Zaz and is like, oh no, now it's fair. And you're like,
just lose the knife, Zaz, and then we're good.
Yeah. And you're like, what the hell, Bane? And yeah, that one was really strong. But no, this is all, like Connor said, I ended up looking forward to this more than the Tower, and I enjoyed the Tower for the most part, but House of Gotham was the main event for me.
And barring those, not this issue actually, I think this issue was fine, but the last two before this, where Blanco had a couple of little panels here or there that were a bit funny and rushed, I think it's very consistent, to have that that art the whole way through.
Yeah, and credit to the Tower, the way it broke down the like 3/3 into an artist each, I thought worked quite well.
Yeah. Props to the editor who organized that and got them all ahead of schedule and got the deadline sorted.
Because it was never
can't have been easy.
It was never going to be realistic to have one artist for all 12 issues, and I think the traditional way this would have probably happened is they'd have been rotating through the 3 artists, where issue 1 is Rayner, issue 2 is Nihilpin, issue 3 is Reese, and then.
Yeah, this will probably feel more jarring in a trade, I think, when you switch really suddenly. But reading it, like week to week and essentially monthly as like here's a month of each artist, I think felt pretty consistent to us now.
Yeah. So I preferred this over them just rotating through the 3 or 4 artists they might have used otherwise.
Definitely.
Yeah.